should have known. There are things we ignore, signs we dismiss, and suspicions we shove down because we don't want to face them. For the longest time, I thought I had the perfect life, a steady job, a beautiful home, and a wife I thought I could trust with my life. Her name was Emily, smart, caring, always busy with something, but always home when I needed her. Or so I thought. I had no reason to doubt her. We didn't argue, not much anyway. Sure, there were little things, moments when she seemed a bit distant, a little distracted, but I convinced myself it was just the stress of life. We were both getting older, settling into routines, and I figured we were just going through the motions like everyone else. But then one day, I started hearing things I couldn't ignore. It was Sarah, our neighbor, who first planted the seed. I'd always liked Sarah. She was the kind of woman who seemed to know everyone's business without ever asking a question. A little too curious, maybe, but she was friendly enough, and we'd had a few conversations over the fence, chatting about the weather or neighborhood gossip. Nothing more than that, really. But that day, her tone was different when she spoke to me. It was softer, like she was holding back something she knew I wasn't ready to hear. "Dave, I don't mean to be nosy, but..." She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if she were afraid someone might overhear. "I've seen a lot of deliveries to your house recently, different times of the day, and I noticed one particular delivery boy. I know he's been coming around a lot." I didn't think much of it at first. We ordered things online like everyone else. Maybe we were ordering too much, but it wasn't unusual for a package to show up on our doorstep every other day. Emily was always into something, and it seemed like she could never get enough of the latest gadgets or home decor. But Sarah's next words chilled me. "It's just that, well, he's been around a lot, Dave. I don't know how to say this, but I've seen him come inside the house a few times, always when you're at work, of course." I froze, my stomach tightened, and I could feel my heart rate increase. I didn't want to hear it, but the doubt was already there, gnawing at me. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, Sarah, you're reading too much into it. She's just been getting a lot of deliveries. You know how she is with online shopping." Sarah didn't seem convinced. "I hope you're right, but, well, I saw him kiss her once, just a peck on the cheek, nothing more. But it didn't look like just a delivery to me. I thought you might want to know." The world seemed to stop moving for a second. A kiss. The simple word held so much weight, so much meaning. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just stood there, unable to process what she was saying. But Sarah's face was serious, too serious, and I could see the concern in her eyes. This wasn't some petty neighborhood rumor. She was telling me something she thought I needed to know. That evening, I didn't say anything to Emily. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? "Hey, our neighbor saw a delivery boy kiss you. Is that true?" That wasn't how things worked. I was scared. I was terrified of what I might find. So I did what I thought was safest. Nothing. I let it eat away at me, and I spent the next few days watching Emily more closely than I ever had before. I tried to pretend I was fine. I told myself it was nothing, that Sarah was just being overly suspicious. But the next week, the same delivery boy showed up again. This time, I was home early. I'd taken the day off work, hoping to relax for a change. Emily was in the kitchen making dinner, her back to me. The doorbell rang. I heard her greet him before I even saw him. She opened the door, and there he was, the same young guy, probably in his early 20s. He had a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, and there was something in the way he looked at her, something that didn't sit right. He handed her a package, and she took it with a smile, but I noticed it. She reached out to touch his arm just for a second. A simple gesture. Something you'd do with a friend, but the way it lingered, the way he leaned in just a little too close, it made my blood run cold. They exchanged a few words. Nothing out of the ordinary, I suppose, but there was a chemistry there. Something familiar between them. They weren't just two people exchanging a package. They were comfortable with each other in a way that felt intimate, in a way that felt wrong. I stood there, watching from the hallway, too afraid to move. My legs felt like lead. My heart was racing, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, but I couldn't move. I couldn't confront her, not yet. The boy left, but it wasn't over. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I replayed that brief interaction over and over in my mind. The way her eyes softened when she spoke to him, the way her hand touched his arm. It wasn't just friendly, I knew that, and that kiss Sarah had mentioned suddenly seemed less like an accident and more like a deliberate act. I didn't sleep that night. My mind wouldn't stop turning, spiraling into 1,000 different directions, each one worse than the last. The next morning, I waited. I had to know the truth. I couldn't keep living in this cloud of doubt, pretending like everything was fine. I needed answers, no matter how much they might hurt. Emily left for work, and I did something I never thought I would do. I followed her. I didn't want to, but I had to. The thought of the delivery boy, of her meeting him when I wasn't there, was too much to bear. So I waited until she was out of sight, and I followed her car to the same spot, the same hotel, where I had seen her walking in with him a few days ago. I parked a few blocks away, hidden from view, and waited. It didn't take long. I saw her arrive, this time alone. She stepped out of the car, glancing around nervously, and then she walked inside. My heart sank. She was meeting him again. The truth was in front of me, undeniable. I wanted to go to her, to confront her right then and there, but something held me back. Fear? Shame? A part of me wasn't ready to lose everything. A part of me still wanted to believe in the life I'd built with her. I didn't follow her inside. Instead, I sat in the car, staring at the hotel entrance, feeling numb. How had I missed it all? How had I been so blind? Looking back, I can see where I went wrong. The warning signs were there, but I ignored them. I told myself I was overreacting, that I was just being paranoid. Maybe that's what we do when we don't want to face the truth. We ignore the red flags, the things that make us uncomfortable, and we tell ourselves it's nothing. I also realize now that I should have trusted my instincts sooner. I should have confronted Emily, asked her directly before it got to this point. I should have listened when Sarah tried to warn me instead of brushing it off as gossip. But the hardest part isn't the confrontation. It's the realization that the person you trusted the most, the one you thought would never betray you, is the one who hurt you. It's the feeling of betrayal that cuts deeper than anything else. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if Emily will ever admit the truth or if I'll have the strength to face it. But I do know this: trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. The most important lesson I've learned is that when you feel doubt creeping in, don't ignore it. Talk to your partner, face your fears head on, and don't let secrets fester in the shadows. It's better to know the truth than to live in the torment of uncertainty. So, I ask you all, how would you have handled this? Have you ever ignored the signs only to regret it later? What would you do if you found out your partner was having an affair? How do you rebuild trust after something like this? Let us know in the comment section. Have a happy family life.